Everybody likes to fish with craws, and at Rage Tail, Strike King, we have this covered. And we have it covered really well. We've got 5 different designs of craws. Everything from this, which is a basic Rage Craw. It's a 4-inch model. It has a real fast, wide flapping motion with the minimum of the rod movement or the movement of the bait. This craw right here goes crazy. And we have it in I don't know how many colors, probably 20 different colors now. So how do you rig this craw? Well, I'll show you a variety of different ways. Of course, you can use it to trail a jig with. You can trail your jig with it. This is our Hack Attack heavy cover jig. You trail a jig with it. You can also Texas rig the regular craws. You can also rage rig the craws, which is on a weighted hook. One of the things I want to tell you about fishing it on a weighted hook, a lot of people think when you're using a weighted hook, it needs to be a swim bait, but truly it doesn't. In fact, if you throw this out in shallow conditions, it's falling through the water column like this, horizontal, and the claws are sitting here waving and flapping on that horizontal profile fall. It's a very seductive action. Fish eat it like crazy. At a recent event, one of the guys says, "Hey, Big O, what do you think I should throw if I want to catch more fish?" And I said, "Rage rig that craw right there with this weighted hook." And I said, "The only place I can't catch a bass with that is in a parking lot." So use this, fish it just like a Texas rig, just throw it out there, let it fall horizontal, move it slowly, lift it slow, let it fall, take up your slack and feel. It's one of the best presentations I've ever seen. In fact, you can use any and every bait, any soft plastic, just like this. And you'll find out that in real quiet conditions, and especially in shallow or over grass or on rocks, shallow rocks, this is one of the best presentations there is. So you might want to check this out when you're using a craw or other soft plastics. I'll show you some of our other craws. We've also got this new, brand new, it's called the DB Craw. You'll notice that there's an appendage that holds these claws together in the middle, and then you have to pop these little claws apart as well. What happened is Denny Breyer, he's the one who came up with this idea right here. And he said, "Hey, Big O, what do you think? Can we come up with a craw that has twin flippers on each side?" And I said, "Sure." And he says, "I want it to ride right behind the jig, not spread out so much. I want it to be a little bit more, a little less action, but I want a good fast action, just not as wide. I want it to stay right behind the jig." So if you'll notice, here it is. This is behind our Hack Attack jig. And where you see those claws hanging behind that jig is exactly where all the action takes place. It stays right behind the jig. And the action is so fast, the flicker rate on these claws is so fast, I think you'll see how great it is when you fish it. It's been a real popular model for us this year. It just came out this past year. So you might want to check that one out too. It's called the DB Craw. Now, there's a lot of different ways to rig a craw on a jig. This is a full body craw on the jig. You can also pinch the craw off to whatever length you want. Each of our craws are segmented, so you can just pinch the tip or something off, and you can pinch it all the way down to chunk size, if you like. So when you're using the craws, remember, they're a very versatile bait. All craws are a versatile bait. Bass love to eat them. So we have a big line of craws. We've even got a baby craw. And this isn't just for the smallmouth market, it's for the bass market as well, largemouth as well. But look at the difference in the size of the baby craw and the standard Rage Craw. That little baby craw is magic. So when you're doing a finesse situation, especially with smallmouth, smaller jigs, you might want to try the baby craw. And remember, just pop those little appendages loose, okay? Now I'm going to show you the granddaddy of our craws. It's called the Rage Lobster. This lobster is a 4.5-inch model. You pop the claws apart. This is one of my favorite colors. It's called Falcon Lake Craw. Now let's look at the difference in the size of this bait and the standard craw. You can see it's a much larger profile. A lot of people say, why do you want to use a craw that big? And I say, you know, I've caught fish that weren't even as long as a craw on a big bait like this, but I also catch a lot of bigger fish with it as well. A lot of times the fish want a larger presentation. If the water's dirty, you want a larger presentation. If the water's really deep, sometimes you want a larger presentation. So not only can you flip it, just flip the straight craw, you can also use it as a trailer. You can actually use this as a topwater bait. That's one of the things that a lot of people that are now using the lobster a lot, they're saying, wow, this bait is an awesome topwater. So just rig it weightless, throw it out there on the surface, bring it back, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So you might want to check out this larger model Rage lobster as well. Now we come to our chunk. Our jig chunk, right here, the Rage chunk. You'll notice this is a short, compact profile. Well, if you talk to Denny and you talk to Greg Hackney and some of these guys who are just awesome flippers, well-known, renowned for their flipping ability and their jig ability, they'll tell you that sometimes fish want a short profile. When they do, this jig chunk is the perfect choice. And the reason is, if you'll notice, I've got the jig. They say, a lot of people ask, how do you rig the chunk on a jig? I just put it straight up on the hook, run it all the way up on the hook, or you can actually take the chunk off and hang it on the hook. A lot of people prefer this because it gives it just a little bit longer profile. Regardless which way you want to rig it, it's a great little chunk for you to use on your jigs. Now the jig chunk can be used on the smaller jigs as well as the larger jigs. But one of the things that I like to do, especially with the chunk, is when I fish it in this short profile like this goes through grass easy, it punches good, and this is a little bit tougher material than what we have on the Rage Craw. It's a little bit heavier material so that it has a little bit more slap when it falls. So you might want to check it out. It's Denny's favorite chunk, it's his favorite trailer. This and the new DB Craw are his two favorite trailers. So you might want to check that out as well.